So everybody, all the things that you're going to need for this project is pretty simple. It's paper mache. If you know how to do paper mache, you know you're going to need newspaper or old paper. You can also use napkins, but napkins are thinner and it's not as strong as newspaper. So I do suggest that you use first the newspaper. You're going to need napkins, you're going to need 2 cups, you're going to need a tape, and you're going to need an old tape roll here, an empty one. That is to help support the balloons once you blow them up and put them on top of each other to make it as high as you want. You can make a mini ghost. You don't have to make a typical looking ghost. You can make a really skinny looking one. You can make a big fat one. It doesn't matter. It's whatever one how you want to do with it. This is just showing you how. And the other things you're going to need also is when you're done with the paper mache, you're going to need white paint, of course. If you want, you have primer, you can prime first, which will be easier. You don't have to use so many paint coats after that. And then once you're done with that, I have here glow-in-the-dark glue sticks. Thanks, Jess. My son's girlfriend gave them to me. She thought I would use them. And you're right, Jess. Thank you. And they glow in the dark green, so I'm going to put that on the ghost in certain areas. So I'm going to be using these. And pretty much that's it. Like I said, you're going to make sure you have something on the bottom where the balloons are, because you can't just put a balloon on top of here, on top of here, and think it's not going to fall all over the place. It's going to, it's round. It's going to happen. So you're going to need this. You're going to have to glue the balloon once you blow it up onto that, so that it doesn't move whatsoever. But we'll go to those steps next. Let's go for the very first step, blowing up the balloons and sticking them on here to start making the form that you want as a ghost. Hi everybody, so I end up blowing up the balloons before I put the play button, because I didn't want to make all that noise. So I decided to blow them 2 different sizes, of course, because we know, of course, like I said before, you need this piece, because you can't just stick this here because it's going to tip over and, do its thing. So what I'm going to suggest is get a good strong tape. This one is very strong. And I do suggest that when you put the tape on, make sure you put it on and you know that you're not going to be moving it anymore. Just stick it on the 2 sides. You don't really need to stick it anywhere else. So like I said, you want to make it so that you can pop the balloons later, because I want to make a hole maybe in the back here in the area. I mean, of course, we know there's going to be one on the bottom, but I want to make a little hole somewhere in the bottom so I can put a light inside there, so that when I make the eyes and the mouth, that you can see that. So that's what I want to do. So you just figure out which side you want to use as a front later. And yeah, and that's pretty much it. You can use 1 big balloon if you want. I didn't have a bigger balloon, and I don't want to blow these up too much, because like if once the balloon part, the plastic, I don't know what you want to call that, expands too much, and if you put too much pressure on it, it will pop, and I don't want to do that. So that's why I want to make sure. I just decided to use 2, but you can use only 1 balloon. So the next step is I want to make some arms. You can use either toilet paper rolls, like I said before, recycle, recycle, recycle. And I'm trying to think, where about do I want to put these arms? If I put them here, or do I want to put them like downwards? Do I want to put them downwards? I think upwards would be the best. So what I do suggest is, like, you use this tape again. You can use the plastic cups, but I realized for this guy's ghost, that'll be too big. So I decided that I'm just going to use toilet paper rolls. As you know how I make my videos, things always change. So you can do this. So everybody, as you can see what I did here, this is just the beginning. I took newspaper and I made them into strips. Doesn't matter what size they are, but as long as they're not too big. And when I put them down, then I put tape in between. Just remember, this is just the form of it that you're trying to make. So once you make your base, you know, stable enough, then we can go to the next step. And I was thinking about either using a old t-shirt, white, or you can use a, what do you call it, cheesecloth, and drape it over. And then you can put some glue on it, stick it in glue and then drape it over and let it dry. And once it's dried, you can paint it. But this for me is just the base. I'm going to drape everything over, and then when I'm done here, the top, then I'm going to make some that it goes down like this, and I'm going to make sure that it's stable enough that I know when I put paper mache on it, when it's something wet, it's not going to go soggy underneath. So I'm going to fill this whole thing up with this clear tape here that you can see here. You know, I'm going to tape the whole thing. This clear tape, it's packaging clear tape, so it's not expensive. And I'm going to just fill this all up here. And then first, like I said, I want to do the top, this area, so that we know that it gets done. So the next step is, you know, you take a piece of tape, you take some of your newspaper that you want to use. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you stick that up top. This is the top area. Make sure that you keep the top area, you know, flat as possible. And then I'm going to make sure that doesn't just stick together here. And I'm going to try to stick it so that it does, you know, that down effect. I don't want it to look funny. So like I said, I'm going to do this. Take my clear tape, and there we go. You see how I did it here? And it's draping down, and you want it to drape even more down later. And I have a picture here that I'm trying to follow of a ghost. This one has his hands up really high and over, but I'm just going to do it like this so that you can see that it's just, you know, sticking out a little bit like that. So that's all I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I stick these like this, how I want it. And there you go. You don't want it to be too straight. You want it to have some kind of a bend here. So that's how I did that. I folded it all together and stuck the tape through that. So I'm just going to keep going around and do this. I'm going to stick some here. Take my tape. And then now that I got this part here done, I want to try to make sure I get, you know, everything here. So as you go around, I thought I should cut it, but then that was not a mistake, but it's another choice that I decide not to do with the rest. So I think it looks much better like this. I mean, it's like I said before, this is just the form. It's not the actual ghost that I'm making. What we need to do now is I'm going to add another row of this tape with the newspaper all around, so they all goes like this, so it's perfectly covered, that you don't see any spaces like in between here like that. I wanted to make sure that it's all flowing around good, because I decided what I want to do is I'm going to leave it so that the ghost dress is not dress, well, you could say it's a dress or sheet, whatever it is. It just flows to the bottom, and then I'm going to make it even so that it just goes down like this. This is what I'm going to do. And because it looks so big in these areas, I think the arms are actually quite small. So what I have to do now is I'm going to get some aluminum foil, or maybe I'll just roll up some big pieces of newspaper and make the arms just a tad bigger. You can work, like I said, I'm working with this as I'm doing it. So the more you put onto it, the more it starts actually looking like a ghost. And once you're done with your framing, that's exactly what we're doing, we're framing. Once you're done with the framing of the ghost, how you want it to look like when you're done, that's when you can start doing the paper mache. It's actually starting to be a little bit more stable now, and that's usually how it goes when you put enough stuff on it so that it doesn't move around so much. I think this side looks good. Like I said, I'm going to make the arms a little bigger, and then I'm going to add some more of the newspaper down so that it goes all the way around like this perfectly. So, and that's how I want to have it. And then once that's done, I'm going to take my tape. Like I said before, very important. You're going to take your tape, and you want to make sure this whole thing is covered with clear tape. Do not use this kind of tape, because the clear tape here that I use, the boxing tape, helps prevent moisture go onto the newspaper that's underneath. Because once that is, that means the work that you're going to put on top of here it may end up drooping down, it may get wet, it might fall down. So there's so many different things that could happen if you're not watching what you're doing well. And yeah, here needs something, it's see-through. Like I said, you need to work with it, and you work form the way you want it. And once you're done doing all the work, I'm going to play with this for a little bit and add some more stuff to it. And when I'm done with this whole thing, I'll show you exactly what it looks like. But like I told you before, you need to add, I'm going to add some long arms on it, a little bit longer. And cutting the tape, the newspaper was not a good thing. So everybody, as you can see here, what I did, like I told you before, I just realized probably you didn't see everything. Hopefully you did. I made the arms longer. I cut the toilet paper roll up in the middle and then folded up. Then cut anything off, folded it a little bit so it makes it just a tad smaller so it can fit inside the other toilet paper roll. Then I put tape on it, and then, as you can see here, I took some newspaper and filled it inside so that it's more stable. Without having something inside, it could be bent very easily when it gets wet, so I don't want to have that. So I did it both sides. So far, I like the way it looks. The holes, the mouth, and the eyes I will cut out later once I have all the paper mache over it and it's hard. Then I can form what I want before I put the very last layer of paper mache on it. And as you can see here, I let it flow like I said, and then I took newspaper and the tape, and I put it all around the bottom after I cut it up. And then because I have several layers of the paper, I had to also put some extra tape underneath here, make sure everything is all connected. So right now, this is how it looks. This is the back end. See, that's why I said you can always figure out which side is the front or the back, and I think this side isn't the best part. This is the best one. This is the front, definitely. And so now I'm going to do the last minute touch-ups. I'm going to add some more tape. If I need to fill it up somewhere, make sure there's no gaps so no liquid can get through. And this is what I'm going to do. I realize now that I cut everything up, it's lifting up here a little bit because of the tape. So that means this thing I can probably take, well, I'll probably end up taking out once I pop the balloon out. I can take everything out of there so that it's hollow, and this could be the area where it's just sitting down. Once this is filled with paper mache and it's hard, if I like the way it looks, I will probably end up using either some plaster of Paris on it. I think that's also a good idea. Or I can use the cornstarch clay. I can make some cornstarch clay, make it very thin, and then put it over it. Probably could do that too. So I'm making iffies. First I'm going to do the paper mache over it, see how it looks. And to make it stable and last longer, I may end up just putting, like I said, either cement, plaster of Paris, or the cornstarch clays method over on top. But first, like I said, first comes first is the paper mache, so that is the very next step. But this is what I did so far. So everybody, the next step is try not to make a mess. I end up buying some real cheap wallpaper paste, and I broke up my newspaper into small pieces. I mean, if you're just going to put one coat first and then let it dry and then do the next coat, like I said, do the bottom first, because once the newspaper is wet and you put several layers, what's going to happen, it's going to get very heavy. And so right now, even if I overlap it and it goes on the table, I'm going to let it dry like that. And then once I put several coats on it and I know that it's not like mushy like this, then I will go to the top. Then I know this part is strong enough to hold the top part. So let's do that. And what we're going to do is just take your newspaper. I like to recycle. I always say that, recycle. And I got my paste here, and I stick the newspaper inside. Make sure it's fully wet. You don't have to do it this way. If you want, you can use a little brush if you want, and do this if you want, but I think that's stupid. So I just rather take my fingers and maybe a brush would be good. So you can dab it, make sure that it's right against the sticky area. And once the newspaper is wet, I can just tell you, you're going to have to be very careful, because once newspaper gets too wet, it breaks so easily, just like a napkin. So I got some stuff here. If you want, my hand's full with it already. I don't want to get it too wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the next one and just put it on top. Just like that. The next one, if you just want to stick your fingers in and then go like this, you can do that too. So everybody, as you can see here, I'm done with the paper mache with the newspaper. And what you see here is I thought maybe I could put cornstarch and mix it with the wallpaper paste and make it like into like a thick, very thick cream, and then put it on top. But what I noticed here, it cracked everywhere. I mean, that's not a bad thing. It could be a good thing. It may look good when it's all cracked like that. I can just paint right over it. We'll see. I had made it still, and this is what it looks like. I may just put it all over the whole thing and see what happens, because I didn't want to throw away the rest of the wallpaper paste that I made. So I said, let me mix the cornstarch to it and see what happens. And this is what happened. But I'm going to put it all over the whole thing and see what happens. And if I'm still unhappy with it, then what I'll do is probably maybe get a coat of cement, you know, paste. Or maybe just put more paper mache over it and then paint over it. But we'll see. Let's check this out, because like I said, I like to recycle and I don't want to throw anything away. So let's get this done. And like I said, I mixed it until the constants were really thick. Thicker than pancake batter. A little bit thicker. So now I'm going to put this all over it. I'm going to get a paintbrush because it'll probably be better to use. Everybody again, it's me, and I just wanted to show you what I did here. This is the toilet paper clay I added onto it because that cornstarch mixture apparently it didn't work out. My camera was giving me trouble, and so I couldn't tape very much, so now I'm telling you what I did here. I painted over the cornstarch maybe to help that glue everything together, all the cracks, but it was still pretty brittle. So I said, okay, no, I have to use the toilet paper clay, or you can use the newspaper clay, either or. And that's what I did here. Now on the front I didn't make enough, so I'm letting that completely dry, and then I'm going to do the back, the sides, the arms, get everything all done that I wanted to, so that once it's totally dry, it's going to be really nice. It's pretty heavy, and as you can see, I took the inside out already, so that's pretty good. And now I'm just going to let that dry. So everybody, I had finished now putting the paper clay from the toilet paper on here. As you can see, it's very stable now in all directions, all sides. You can either sand it down or leave it like this. I'm going to leave it like this. You know, some areas I will probably pick at and, you know, get rid of. Maybe I might file some of this down. I don't think I will, but you could if you want. I'm pretty much done. So now, as you can see, I'm making some more of the paper mache clay. Not paper mache, the toilet paper clay. So right now I'm making another dose. I'm making enough so I can fill the inside of this. How I'm going to do that is you're just going to tip it upside down. And when you start doing it, I suggest that you start from down here, fill it out with your hand, and then work your way upwards, and then cover this, and then you're done. And you wait for that to dry, and once that is dry, we go to the next step, which is the painting. So everybody, I finished my clay, as you can see here. I made it not so thick. I made it a little bit thinner, so it's easier to work with. And what I'm using is, you can use the end of a kitchen utensil, the wooden ones. Anything that's smooth like this, rounded, would be the best bet for you to be able to go inside. Using your finger, especially like with me with the nails, that's not going to work. So how I'm going to do is, I'm going to take my clay that I made, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to first start from the bottom area and let that dry, and then turn it around, because I don't want it to flop down. So what I'm going to do is take and roll it. And roll it inside like this. Don't put too much pressure on it, because you do not want it thin, too thin. So, and I'm just gonna make my balls, make it a little bit of flat, make it flat a tiny bit, and then go to the next one. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. And that's it. And then you keep doing that on the inside. Areas that are kind of curved, what I do is just pat it down slightly. I don't know if you can see that, how smooth it's becoming. And then I keep going around. Now once I'm done with this side and that dries, I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to do the exact same thing to the back end, but this time where the eyes are, you have to be very careful. As when you do this inside part, you have to make sure that you make this area rounded so that it doesn't have anything sticking out of it. So you have to be very careful while you're working with that, but it should be easy to deal with. And when we're done with that, like I said before, we go to the next step. So everybody, I'm done with my ghost. It's all done. Even on the inside, it's all dried. So now what I want to do is paint it. I don't know if you can see here in the inside, you can see the color too of the toilet paper clay. And now the next step is we're going to paint this. So now we're just going to go ahead and paint this all white, the whole thing. Don't worry about crevices or whatever. I'm just going to take the paint and just pour it on top of the head. There's no need to do anything else. Just take your paint, make sure you cover all the areas well. everybody, my ghost here is dry, but because my glue gun has normal glue still in it, I have to use it up, and I don't want to do waste because I love to recycle and I just don't like to waste things. But what I'm talking about is my daughter-in-law, future daughter-in-law, she got me these glow-in-the-dark glue sticks. And that's what I'm going to be using. That's what's here now. And I have to wait until they're done. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to take whatever glue I have left. And I'm going to make, there's a quick tip. Without wasting your hot glue, what you could do is I'm making a snowflake for the window. So you see I put the eyes, the mouth, some eyebrows. Hopefully that is the glow-in-the-dark glue stick. I'm hoping. And now I will take the rest and I will just make zigzags here. As you can see here, what happened here, I think that's cool. I was hoping I can do that with all of them, but doesn't want to do that. I'm pretty much done. I spelled the word boo here. So let's turn the light off and see if it's actually glow in the dark. Well, everybody, that is the video for my ghost. Took me a while to make it. I apologize for that, and it's going to be a long video. I'm sorry. This is the finished product. I don't know if you could see it, but it did glow in the dark, and it looks awesome. So I'm really happy what I did, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.